Boom, ever onward tribe, February 2020, Commander's Coffee. As most of you know, I love to read. I love to write, I love to think, but reading is a true passion. It's a gift my dad gave to both my brother and I, and one that we've kind of maintained through life, and something that I truly draw pleasure, inspiration, motivation from. I've talked about this subject, I believe, before, but I don't think I've ever done it as a Commander's Coffee post. But when I do a lot of the kind of corporate speaking events, a lot of times I'll talk very specifically about leadership lessons, leadership examples that I think are worth sharing. And so I'm going to share one today that's one of my all-time favorite. When I showed up my first SEAL team, a very senior enlisted operator from the team tossed me this paperback copy of Stephen Pressfield's Gates of Fire. Gates of Fire. This talks about the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, which has become a very famous, sensationalized moment in Spartan warfare history. If you don't know the story, this Persian emperor of apparently 1 million some odd man force is descending on Greece. The Spartans are absolutely hands down the toughest warriors, and it proves to be true on the planet at that time, or at least in this era. And they need to try and repel and stand up against the Persians. They don't have time to send their entire battle corps, 10,000 some odd strong, to fight this fight, so they send 300 of their most capable and very focused warriors to a geographic choke point where Xerxes, the Persian emperor, and his hordes need to go through this section of terrain. The Spartans know that because it's so tight, they'll have the advantage in the fight, and after multiple days of battle, the Persian wins, but just with unbelievable, near catastrophic damage to his army, and really the motivation and spirit of his army, seeing what these 300 Spartans could do to this overwhelming force. So the way Pressfield weaves the story is basically the battle is over, the Spartans have been defeated, or at least those 300 defeated, and the Persian emperor finds this one Spartan squire barely alive on the battlefield. And so he throws his surgeons at him, he keeps him alive, and he kind of works in such a way to try and get into interviews with this Spartan squire, so he really understands the character and the ethos and what drives Spartans to fight the way they fight. At one point, the conversation drifts towards the Spartan king Leonidas, who fell in battle and was actually very much on the front line of battle throughout the entire campaign. Persia had never seen that before. Kings were usually in the rear, making sure basically watching the battle unfold. If their army wins, they take the victory lap. If they lose, they surrender. But this is a description from the Spartan squire to the Persian king about the Spartan king Leonidas, and it's one of my favorite passages of leadership of all time. I'm going to share it with you. I will tell his majesty what a king is. A king does not abide within his tent while his men bleed and die upon the field. A king does not dine while his men go hungry, nor sleep when they stand watch upon the wall. A king does not command his men's loyalty through fear, nor purchase it with gold. He earns their love by the sweat of his own back and the pains he endures for their sake. That which comprises the harshest burden, a king lifts first and sets down last. A king does not require service of those he leads, but provides it to them. He serves them, not they him. That passage is I have a lot of passages about leadership that I love, but that one in particular captures it in about as small a snapshot as you can capture. If you're the type of leader that has figured out the higher you go up the chain of command, the further out into that suite, the more kind of power and rank you have, the more you are in service to your troops, in service to your team, there's very little else you need to know about leadership. You are going to flourish and your team's going to flourish. If it's the opposite, if you think the further you go up the rank structure, the more people now work for you, you're blowing it. And while you might not know it, I guarantee you your troops know it. So be that leader that picks up burdens first and sets them down last, that earns their love of their troops because of the sweat you're willing to endure on their sake. Those leaders, their teams will do anything for them. Ever onward.